Okay, welcome. This is the school board trustee candidate presentation from Mr. Barry Neufeld. Mr. Neufeld is presenting to Central Elementary students and helping them better understand the government at the local level. So Mr. Neufeld, thank you very much for coming in. Really appreciate your time. And students, if you can be as comfortable as you can and settle in. So Mr. Neufeld, over to you.
Well, good morning, boys and girls. I'm happy to be here. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit something about myself, why I decided to be a school trustee. Quite a few years ago, I had a stepdaughter who was profoundly deaf, and she was in grade 5 in Burnaby. And a lot of us think that deaf people only communicate by sign language, but she had been brought up to a different program called oral education. In other words, she learned to lip read. And in the classroom, what we did was we put an FM transmitter on the teacher, and then she had special hearing aids that were a receiver that would amplify the teacher's voice so she could hear what the teacher was saying. But as she was coming up to grade 6, there was no junior high school for her to go to at all. And she was going to be forced to go to a school where they did sign language. The reason we didn't want Candy to learn sign language was because then she could only communicate to people who knew sign language. But if she could lip read, she could socialize and have friends with all kids. So anyways, what we needed to do was organize a junior high school. And we started a year ahead of time because junior high school began in grade 7. We only had a year to get it up and running. So I was part of that group, and we worked really hard, and we talked to all the politicians in the capital of British Columbia, and we advocated for money, and we sent out brochures, and we worked really hard, and we finally got a deaf program for the deaf at McPherson Park Junior High School. And I began to see how difficult it was to get people to think differently. Everyone we approached says, well, why don't they just go to the school where they do sign language? We said, no, we want something better for her. So anyways, we got that off the ground. I later got a job as a probation officer. And a probation officer is a person who helps people who get into trouble with the law. And my office was just across the street from the funeral home. I remember one day, the principal of Central Elementary, I saw him in our back parking lot. He looked really upset. So I went out to see what had happened. And there was a little boy from Central that was very naughty. He was on the top floor of the school, and he started a fight, and he picked up one of these desks and threw it right out the window, right through the glass. And the principal tried to catch him, and he ran away. And he was hiding in the corner of our parking lot. And so anyways, I took him into my office, and I had to talk to him and said, you know, if you keep doing naughty things like this, you know, your life isn't going to be much fun. You might end up going to court. You might end up going to jail. So maybe now is the time to smarten up and start listening to your teachers. And I was really pleased when 3 days later I came to work and there was a bouquet of flowers on my desk from his mother. Apparently he decided that he wasn't going to be so much trouble in school anymore. So between those two things, my working with helping set up a school for the deaf and helping kids who were in trouble, I really wanted to help all the school kids, but especially the kids in school who are struggling, who are having a hard time. Because I know that it's really important to have a good teacher, but also some kids need a little extra help. And they might need a teacher's assistant, or they might need a special class, or they might need an iPad or a laptop or something to help them get ahead. So it was a long time ago, 24 years ago, I ran for school board, and there was an election, and I lost. And the guy who won had a school named after him, so obviously he had an edge on me. But that was up in the Kootenays. Then I came to Chilliwack, and it was 21 years ago when I first ran for school board. And because of my experiences with the School for the Deaf, because I worked with kids who were in trouble with the law, and I'd also been involved on the hospital board, people decided to take a chance on me and elect me. So I have always been really pushing for more resources for schools like Central School, for the alternate schools like Chance, and especially for our First Nation students. I knew that the First Nation students really didn't feel at home in some of our schools. And I wanted them to feel welcome. I wanted them to feel proud of their heritage, of their grandfathers and their grandmothers and all their relations. And so whenever something came up that had to do with kids who were struggling, or First Nations kids or deaf kids, I was always speaking up for them. Now, I can't do everything myself because they elect 7 people to run the whole school district. And we really only have one employee, and that's the superintendent. And our superintendent nowadays is Mrs. Novak. And we look to hire the best superintendent that we can. And then she, in turn, hires everybody else in the school district. It's been going on for years, but she hires the principals, and the principals help to hire the teachers, and the principals help to hire the teaching assistants and the bus drivers and the janitors. And so she's a pretty important person, but she has to report to us 7 trustees, and we all live in Chilliwack, and we try to make sure that all the schools in Chilliwack are doing something to help the community of Chilliwack to be a better place. And this is now, will be my 7th time when I'm running for school trustee. And there's 6 of us that are running for re-election. One gentleman decided that he'd been a school trustee long enough. He's not going to run again. So there's 13 people that are trying to be elected. 6 of them have already been school trustees. So that means that there's 7 new people who are trying to get elected to the school board. The school board election is always the same time as the city election. And in the city election, or the municipal election, they elect a mayor and they elect 6 councillors. And that election will be a week from tomorrow. So I hope that you go home and tell your parents to vote for me. But that's not as important as getting your parents out to vote. So a week from Saturday, ask your mom and dad, hey, did you guys go vote yet? You know, it's really important. We have a country that's free. We can have our own religion. We can practice our own traditions. And we will continue to have that freedom if we exercise our right to vote. They have changed it now, so you only get to vote every 4 years. But it's really something that a person should not say, who cares? My vote doesn't make a difference. Well, everybody's vote makes a difference. And I would really encourage you to tell your parents to get out and vote. And with that, I'll move on to the next section.
So, Mr. Neufeld, would you like to take some questions now, or would you like to?
I sure will take some questions.
Yeah. So, yeah, please remember that there are people on the other end of this camera, and so we want to be as loud as possible. Please introduce yourself by your first name. So, Leah.
Okay, Leah.
If I elect you, will you give us some more books in the library?
If I elect you, will I give you some more books in the library? You know, that's always a problem, getting books in the library. We are responsible for, get a load of this, $124 million every year that we spend in all the schools in Chilliwack. There's 34 of them. And we get the money from Victoria, and then we have to set a budget. And we decide, well, okay, we're going to spend this much money on janitors and this much money on teachers, and we're going to spend this much money on school buses. Unfortunately, the government does not give us very much money for books in the library. But the one thing that I am really pushing for is more money for schools, books in the library, and especially more money for teacher librarians. Because I believe teacher librarians, they don't have a class to look after, but they can be a real lot of help to kids when they go to the library and help them to get enthused about reading. So yes, there's not a lot of money left over for books in the library, but I will sure push for more books in the library. And we have a question right here.
Will you if elected, will you get us a drama music program?
Okay, what was your name?
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne? Cheyenne would like to know if we get a music drama program. You know, our politicians nowadays are all focused on teaching kids to get jobs, to work up north in the mines and the oil rigs. But I really believe that we need to do something more with our lives than just work. And myself, I'm a musician. I know that at times when I'm feeling blue or restless or whatever, I just love to sit down at the piano or at my synthesizer and play music. And I've also been involved in drama, been involved in a couple of musicals in the Arts Center when it was still the Arts Center. And I really, really think it's important to include music and drama, as well as math and carpentry and welding and all the work type of courses. So yes, I will do what I can. You don't have a music and drama program at this school, Anne, is that right? Well, it's something you certainly need. The boy at the back, what was your name?
My name's Logan.
And what would you like to ask?
If I elect you, will you try to get an electronic device for everyone in school?
An electronic device for everyone. You know, the world is changing. And I know that for some students, an electronic device like an iPad or a laptop really helps them. But the technology changes so fast. I remember a few years ago, they had some gadget they were wanting to have every student at Central have, and it had a keyboard and it had a little screen about 1/2 inch high and 5 inches long, and they could type on it instead of writing. And you would laugh if you saw it now. It's so old-fashioned. I don't know whether I would be that enthused about getting an electronic device for every student, but for the students that need it, I would certainly do what I could to try and find the money for that. Question here. What was your name?
Renee.
Renee?
If I elect you, will you add another recess after lunch till 1:30 till 1:45?
1:30 till 1:45. Well, you know, the decision about recesses, I think we usually leave that to the principal and the teachers in the school. Depends on their schedule. Teachers are very, very busy in the classroom, and I know that we need to find more time for them to get ready and prepare their lessons before they get in front of the kids. And we're still working out that schedule. So my answer would be that I would leave that up to your principal and the staff at your school. Yes.
My name's Drayden.
Braden?
Drayden.
Drayden, okay. What would you like to ask?
I'd like to ask if you can make the intermediate playground much larger.
Make the intermediate playground much larger, you know.
More swings.
Yeah, I know Central is really cramped for area, isn't it? You're sort of surrounded by 3 streets. I don't know, I'd have to convince the mayor to maybe shut down Young Road or college. That would be hard. But I know you kids are crowded here. I don't know if I can do that. That would be beyond, that's something we'd have to take up with the mayor and council to see if there's more land we could turn into a school playground.
I think we have time for one more question.
Right here, this little boy. What's your name? More equipment for gym. You know, Central School is a community school, and I know that the kids use the gym, but I know community members also use the gym. There's a certain fixed amount of money that we spend on gym equipment, but I think we need to challenge our community to see if they can do a hot dog sale or something to raise more money for gym equipment.
Okay, thank you for answering those great questions, Mr. Neufeld. Just to kind of wrap up here, we've been following the same kind of format, and to help the kids narrow down their choice when they come to voting, we've been asking candidates, if you are re-elected for a position of school board trustee, what is the most important thing to you personally that you would like to achieve in that term?
Well, boys and girls, when I look at the big picture, our world is much different nowadays than when I was a child. And how it's different is that there are now more old people, age 65 and over. There's more old people than there are kids under the age of 16. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, I'm an older person, and I know the one thing we worry about is our health. And older people are living longer, but they're living longer because the government is spending tons and tons of money on cancer treatment and all sorts of health intervention. The other thing older people are worried about is their pension. So what's happening in society is that the voters are getting more worried about older people than they are about kids. The one thing that I will do as a school trustee is try to convince all the community that we have to look after our kids, or we're not going to have any money in the future to look after our older people. When you guys go to the workforce, you're going to be supporting not only the kids, but hundreds and thousands of old people that are still alive. So I want to keep pushing the message that public education is important, and it can't be overlooked just because people want to spend money on hospitals and old age pensions. In other words, I'm going to be looking for more money for schools and for public education.
Division 10, could we please give our guest, Mr. Barry Neufeld, a round of applause? Thank you. So that concludes our third candidate for a school board trustee presentation. And once again, Mr. Neufeld, I just want to thank you for helping to empower our students with the knowledge that when they get to voting age, that they have a responsibility to be active citizens. And part of that is when they have a chance to have their voice heard, they take advantage of that. So thank you.
Thank you.